The following is a crypto meetup in Manhattan that I attended a few days ago. The young lady speaking is a representative of a top four crypto exchange in the US. She has a traditional private equity and a fund construction background, um, according to what she explained. And I want to point out the differences in perception between myself and my staff, and it appears the vast majority of the crypto industry. Some of the stuff that she said literally flabbergasted me. To put it succinctly, the due diligence in terms of old school fundamental analysis and IP due diligence is somewhere between non existent and sparse. And that's to put it politely. Now, I want to make clear that I am not trying to embarrass anybody or make anybody look bad. That is far from my intent. But I do think that it is worth pointing out the lack of proper due diligence and the likely result, not even potential, the likely result. Okay? We're not even going to go through the fundamental portion. We're going to focus on IP due diligence and patents. Listen closely, and I will have some factual anecdotes interspersed throughout this short presentation.
Shameless plug, but I think nobody's an expert. And my advisor for my NFT marketplace is actually a 16-year-old NFT market maker.
How did
I have to work around his schedule.
So let's talk about this, because this is interesting with a lot of like the news stories that are happening right now, right? One, it's like a child, well, underage, right?
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant, right? Do you know the background? Can you share that?
Well, he reached out to us. He's like, hey, you guys need help. I'm like, yeah, we do. But he says, well, after 4 o'clock in the evening, I'm available for your market making abilities and like to guide you as an advisor for your NFT marketplace. I'm like, okay, and that guy is a genius.
Really?
He's like, we should be doing airdrops like XYZ. I'm not going to give you my strategy, but he's brilliant. So my interns and my under 20 advisors give me the best input. So anybody who's looking to jump into the space, I was brought in to structure funds. And then they were like, hey, do you want to launch an NFT marketplace? 6 weeks later, we're doing it. I'm creating avatars that are portable into the metaverse. So you just have to be able to pivot and be intellectually curious and kind of a believer. Because if you're constantly, you just have to jump in. When I was advising, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I've learned more being in the space fully than pretending like I knew what I was talking about.
Right.
Here I step in and ask what I thought was a very obvious question. Hello, how are you? So I have a couple of questions, you mind? So not to be critical, but you really take strategic advice from a 16-year-old?
Well, he has one of the best marketing strategies, and he's been able to get a project that's not even live yet, so yes. If he makes me money.
You do due diligence on the strategies and the assets before? Like due diligence that's comparable to traditional, your private equity background?
So when it comes to an NFT, that's what he's here for, right? And it's more like understanding like who's the actual buyer. It's the digitally native, the younger kids, the gamers. So I like to categorize NFT buyers as 4: superfans, curious, collectors, traders. And based on what he says, I try to target his category that way. So if I'm doing a lithograph, right, something cool, funky, snazzy, like block chomps or something, I know he's the one who's going to be buying it. But if I'm doing a Yankees or something like that, I know my demographic is different, and I'm not going to be taking his advice because he's probably not really watching baseball because it's a gamer. So it depends on that. Also, we do our due diligence because we are kind of an exclusive marketplace right now. So we don't even take on projects that we have not done due diligence behind because we don't want to be an open secret.
Transferring an NFT infringes on at least 2 patents. So, yeah, it happens to be my patent, coincidentally, right? The Solana network infringes on patent, and so does transactions on the F network, as well as swaps. So give you a hypothetical, okay? If you're infringing and the funds, 40B funds, you said? 40F funds. 40F funds have to put their investors' interest first. So if someone were to send you a notice that you're infringing, you have little recourse in terms of challenging the patent, if I'm not mistaken.
So 40X funds actually are, there's like 40X funds and crypto don't go together. Right now you act as though there are some trusts that have SOX compliance and act like 40X funds, but you don't actually have to comply. There are Reg D funds. So from an NFT perspective, you don't have to comply to that. But the best, so NFT and funds is very separate.
Okay, well, okay, let's not talk about NFTs specifically, because NFTs are crypto.
Right.
Okay, so if you have if there's a patent, the transfer of conditional value infringes on the patent.
Right.
The NFT transfer would infringe, but so would Solana, and access to Solana, use of Solana in the US, and the same thing with Ethereum. So if the fund profits from the use of these assets, then the fund infringes. So, and I'm just asking questions that I never hear. This is something, this level of due diligence is simply not done in the industry.
Right.
There is one foundational patent, in other words, a patent that covers almost the entire industry, and two less important but very critical patents. 65% of what I heard you say infringes on these patents. Now, I'm not picking on you. I am not.
That's okay.
Okay, but IP due diligence is simply not done.
So are you talking about IP copyrights, or like when you talk about these patents, what exactly are you talking about?
So the patents, in a nutshell, I'm going to oversimplify it.
We need to go because we got more questions.
Okay, well okay.
Where I'm going with this is, the regulatory landscape is being figured out, right?
Right.
It's up to the person whether to jump into the regulatory landscape or not. Like you jump in before the regulatory landscape is figured out or not. But like I always like to make the analogy, this is like the internet right now.
I understand.
And Gary Gensler, SEC, everybody are trying to make sense of it just like we are and try to write a rule book. But the rule book keeps changing because this is a very fast-moving industry.
Okay, thank you. We just open up for another
This is my card. Give me a call.
Thank you very much.
Patent law has nothing to do with regulatory landscape. Okay? But I'll discuss it with you. Not picking on you, okay? Okay.